This is American Real, where we aim to inspire, empower, and enlighten you through the stories of our guests. Here's your host, Roger Brooks.
What does it mean to help your clients with hedging risk and exposure?
What is risk? You know, people have different definitions of risk. Like what I may find risky, it might be absolutely normal for you. And the main thing that a lot of people forget, especially in business, and I'm not just talking about trading or commodities, etc., blah, blah, blah. I'm talking about in business, people need to make sure that the best way to hedge against any kind of risk is to let go of emotion. Simple as that. The moment that you get emotion to come into the picture, that's it. You're done. You can't be a trader, and that happens in a lot of different scenarios. You know, hedging is basically just it's a management strategy.
This is American Real. I am Roger Brooks. My guest today is Saheb Youssef. You help your clients hedge risk and exposure. You manage highly complex multi-party and international contract negotiations, and you're a business-to-business specialist. Joseph, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure and honor to be invited on American Real. Roger, it's such a pleasure. The moment you reached out to me, I was like, I have seen you actually talking to some amazing people from around the world. And it's an honor. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Looking forward to it.
The feeling is mutual. I've been following you recently on LinkedIn. You're putting out some incredible work, and I'm so happy to be connected. And you're on the other side of the world. You're in Singapore.
Pretty much 12 hours of time difference. So yeah, it's fine. I mean, a lot of my friends actually say that I actually function on American time because I actually sleep at about 3-4 a.m. my time, which is about 3-4 p.m. your time, right? So they're like, you're just born on the wrong continent, mate.
No, and when we scheduled this interview, you actually said, let's push it till later. So I was surprised, but I could see now that you're really in your zone at this time of night.
Always, mate, always. I mean, between about 11 o'clock to about 3 o'clock in the morning is my LinkedIn time. So you're one of my amazing connections and friends on LinkedIn. So it's a pleasure to be in this discussion with you.
Fantastic. So Joseph, let's go back. I don't typically start here, but let's talk about your backstory. Can you talk a little bit about your upbringing and what it was like growing up, and kind of lead us into what you're doing today? And we'll definitely get into LinkedIn because I know it's a powerful tool for you and millions of others around the world. But tell us about your upbringing.
Interesting question. Obviously, it goes back quite a few decades now. But I'm an only child of a single mother. I was born in Calcutta, India. So that is the eastern part of India. So only child, single mother. My mom was also a single child of her parents. And, I literally, being the only, being the son, I guess I was given every single thing that I've always wanted by my mom. My mom was an educator. And she used to be an English teacher at my school back in Calcutta, and then she became the principal of a school, and presently she's actually in politics, interestingly, in India. But she's always been someone who's given back to community, and that's, I think, something which has been embedded into me from a very young age. But I've had a myriad of different things which I've done throughout both my personal as well as my professional life, so to speak. To go back, and this actually brings back quite a few memories there, Roger. So I wanted to become an Air Force pilot growing up. I was also actually admitted into the National Defense Academy. However, being the only grandchild, my grandma actually told me that no, you are not going into the Air Force, because just in case, if we get into a war and you die, then what's going to happen? So I let go of my childhood dreams of becoming an Air Force pilot, and I completely switched into being a through and through science student in school. I was never a topper. I was never in the top 5 students in my class, but I always used to be at least within the top 10 in general. But I always used to be an outstanding person. Now, I'm not talking about, grades wise, right? I used to be so naughty in school. I used to be standing outside the class most of the time, by the teacher. So I used to be really outstanding in that respect. But through and through science student, physics, chemistry, computers. And then, for my bachelor's, interestingly, I was actually supposed to be coming to study in the United States, Roger, just so you know, because my aunt, my mom's first cousin, she actually lives in California, in Pasadena. So I was supposed to actually go to UC Berkeley, but tore that off for some reason. I still have my my sort of invitation letters and everything, but and I ended up going to Australia. I always, for some reason, loved Australia. My love story with Australia sort of started when I was about 14 years old, because I actually did so my mom and I were very, very close, of course, and we did this really amazing sort of tour across Europe when I was 14 during the turn of the millennium. So that was in 99, 2000. And we did this conducted tour across Europe. It was a bus tour. And there were 35 people on the bus, and out of them, 30 of them were Australians. So that was the first time basically I had interacted with Australians at that time in my life, because prior to that I was obviously based in India, based in Calcutta, and loved those guys, very laid back, very friendly, and so I think my sort of affinity, my liking towards people from Australia started from there. So when I ended up not coming to the US for my further studies, I was like, I need to go to Australia. So what do? I ended up going over to Melbourne, and I started studying something which is completely out of my comfort zone, So I did accounting and finance.
Okay.
Now, the reason why I'm saying completely outside my comfort zone, and this is something which I think a lot of viewers actually don't know about me, in school, especially in my last 4 years, so from grade 9 to grade 12, I have never passed a single math test ever in my life, right? And but it's very interesting because I was a CPA. Now, the reason I'm saying I was a CPA, a certified, practicing accountant, is because I've never actually worked in the accounting field, so to speak, in my professional journey, or in the accounts department of any company or corporation at all. So I didn't want to keep on paying a yearly fee. That's the reason why I don't yet. I mean, I'm no longer specifically a CPA. But it's very interesting. A person who's never actually passed a math exam in his life in the last 4 years, he was actually a CPA, and I was really good at what I did. But the thing which really I'm passionate about is basically building relationships. So that's where I think in my career, I've always focused on building relationships. I've always been in sales and business development and marketing, and negotiation and strategy and risk management, etc. They just basically came bubbling up along the way. But my core passion is people. I live, breathe, and bleed relationships, pretty much.
Joseph, that's awesome. What an amazing journey you've had, and I think it goes back to the days where you were young, and you said, "Look, you were that person, right? That was a good communicator. You were that person that I'm sure was a great friend." So that started from an early age. Coming from a single mom, do you think that played into any of your personality of becoming a relationship person because you were so close?
I think it's a great question, actually. I mean, I've not thought of it in that way, but I think there's one thing for sure. I mean, I absolutely feel, and I don't just say it, I actually mean it, that, I know and I feel and I believe that women are the true architects of society. I mean, I have utmost respect for women. And I think that stems from the fact that, especially with my mum, Obviously, I mean, teachers, I think, in no country in the world, they are actually paid what they deserve, in my opinion. Right.
Agree.
Because it's something which is really horrendous. And I think especially during this time, during this pandemic, which we're all going through, where we're basically having to teach our own children at home, right? And we are starting to appreciate the hard work that teachers actually do, to being able to, build the foundations of our lives, not just our careers, but our lives in general. So, I mean, she never used to make a lot of money, but the thing which she did was she always wanted me to leave the country and go abroad for my further studies. I never understood why, because I was like, I'm your only son. Why do you want me to go away from you, and stuff? And she's like, no, I don't want you to stay in Calcutta or in India for that matter, because I want you to go and see the world. I want you to broaden your horizons. That's something which I could never do.
I was going to say,
when I was younger.
Right.
And I want my son to actually, go out there, be independent, know what the world's like. And I'm so grateful to her, because Roger, just to give you an example. So when I first moved to Melbourne, back in 2003, goodness, that's 17 years ago, I actually cried for almost a week. And I'll tell you when I cried. I cried when I had to cook my own food. I cried when I had to wash my own clothes. I cried when I had to wash my own dishes. Because, yes, I'm coming from India, which is a developing country, etc. But I never had to do any of those things in my life. Like even if I had to get a drink of water, I could actually shout out to one of my helpers saying, hey, can you give me a glass of water? I never had to do anything. So interestingly, I mean, for me to be able to get out of my comfort zone back in India and go into Australia, it actually made me realize what life is. It made me realize being independent. And it gave me a lot of really, really important life lessons, to be able to be respectful for people regardless of the job that they do. And that is something which I guess just honed in on my personality in being able to connect with people in a more meaningful manner. Wow. So I'm very grateful to my mom for actually pushing me and getting me to leave the country at a very young age, where all of her friends and all of our relatives were like, what are you doing? He's 17. Let him go for his masters. Let him do his bachelor's in India. I mean, interesting. Just so you know, Roger. I mean, I have studied obviously in Australia. My bachelor's and masters and everything is in Australia, but the education system in India is, I would say, far better than Australia, than the UK, than the US. It's more rigorous. It's more in depth. It's absolutely brilliant. So everyone's like, let him do his bachelor's here and let him go for his master's. But I was like, nah. My mom was like, no, he's going. Simple as that.
Wow. She had some really great foresight in mind. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. It's interesting. I have to share a story with you. Last night, my wife and our son went for a walk. Mm-hmm. And I was flipping through my phone, and they got a little bit ahead of me, and I was just observing them. And they were having such a wonderful conversation between the two of them, very natural. And I had said to my son when I caught up to them, I said, when I was your age, my parents never went on a walk with me like this. I said, what do you feel about this? He's 14 years old, and he said, I love spending time with mom. Yeah. So I think you're right, that mother-son bond is really crucial. The teacher to the student is really crucial at a young age. So I'm glad you shared that with us, because it is important, especially right now when so many parents are educating their children at home.
Exactly.
So
couldn't agree more.
So you're in Australia. How long did you actually spend there before you moved to your next mission?
Well, I was in Australia for around 11 years, actually. And then now I'm in Singapore for the last 7 years. I'm actually heading back to Australia by the end of this year, Roger. Hopefully once the borders are open. So I'm going to be heading back. back to Melbourne, my good old, hunting
Wonderful.
ground, playing ground. Melbourne's a place which I just literally call home. And it's a place where literally every time I talk about it, I have the hairs on the back of my neck standing up because I can just feel myself there. So I'm really passionate about, and I love the place. Have you actually been to Australia?
I have not. That's somewhere I absolutely want to go. My wife actually has family in Perth, so we have some relatives that we could visit there as well.
Awesome. Melbourne's the place to be. A place or a city doesn't get voted like 8 years in a row as the most livable place in the world if there's not something amazing about it. So
what's your most favorite part about Melbourne?
The most favorite part about Melbourne, it's a very interesting thing. I mean, it's something which, in my opinion, a lot of people hate and a lot of people love. So Melbourne's called is called the city of 4 seasons in a day. So it can be like really cold in the morning. It can be really hot in the afternoon. It can start raining like cats and dogs, like late afternoon. And it can be like really nice and calm and balmy weather, like you find in California sometimes, right? So it's called the city of 4 seasons in a day. But apart from that, I mean, Melbourne's got this, in my opinion, it's got this amazing mix of old school charm and new age technology, if that makes sense. So it's got that really lovely balance of being a Victorian place, like straight out of Europe, straight out of the UK. Obviously, Melbourne's the capital of the state of Victoria, so which makes it very more much more interesting. But I think it's just the charm. It's just a charming place. People are laid back, but people do their work. But they're very friendly. Love the coffees. World's best coffees, Melbourne, without a shadow of a doubt. Without a shadow of a doubt. Starbucks had to close down in Melbourne, mate, because they couldn't
make it.
Actually compete with the local coffee shops. They had to close down.
It sounds marvelous, and it sounds like it's a place I could settle right into. So we'll definitely have to make it one of our
absolutely, mate. Absolutely.
Stops.
So I mean, if you're coming sometime next year, I will receive you at the airport.
Oh, that would be wonderful. We'll have to plan it. Awesome, Joseph.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about your work. You're really good with hedging risk and exposure. Bring us into that. Of course, your communication skills, I'm sure, are wonderful, but your background in accounting, I'm sure all this journey brought you to where you are today. What does it mean to help your clients with hedging risk and exposure?
Great question, and I'm going to actually start off with a story, or rather of a personal anecdote. So, I mean, what is risk? People have different definitions of risk. Like what I may find risky, it might be absolutely normal for you. So, I mean, risk, in my opinion, is something which has to do with your own mindset and with your own opinion of how you look at the aspect. So, I'll give you a real world example. I used to play a lot of poker when I was in Melbourne. I played in the World Series of Poker and the WPT.
No kidding.
At Crown Casino in Melbourne. And I actually learned to play poker at I would say when I was like 19 years old. I was taught by a couple of my friends, and I got really good at it. And my first experience with risk and hedging actually came at a poker table. I'll tell you how. I'm a very, very competitive guy, very competitive. Like I've got a huge stubborn streak. I'm a Taurian, so,
Makes sense. That's all you have to
say. Stubborn is like my middle name, right? But so my first real world example, real world lesson training came at a poker table. So, I was playing poker and, I was getting a couple of bad beats. People who play poker would know, you've got a good cards, but you get, outdrawn, etc. But, and I just kept going at it, right? And I lost over $2,000 in a couple of hours in a cash game, which was like a $2, $3 buy-in cash game. What I'm trying to say is like, and that was the first and the last day that I actually lost an amount of money which I wasn't prepared to lose, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So what I used to do from after that time. I used to go to play poker once a week on a Saturday because I used to have a half day at work on a Saturday. I used to go for a couple of hours. And that's it, a couple of hours. It's not like I'm saying a couple of hours and I'm going to stay the whole day. No. And that's how I started to hedge my exposure to risk. How did I do it? A couple of things which I did was like, I used to make sure, I used to take out exactly $200 for a cash game out of my wallet, and I used to leave my wallet in the car. That's it. If I lose, I walk away. Simple as that, right? And I used to set a timer on my phone to make sure that when it's 2 hours are up, I get up out of the table. Simple as that. Those little things were what basically made me realize that, you know, risk is everywhere, but the thing is, it's how you manage it and how you mitigate it, and that's the main thing. Because, you know, I was hedging against basically losing more than 200, if that makes sense, at any given moment, but I was also hedging against the time frame. Now, if you bring it back into real world, or rather business scenarios, right? You've got obviously your futures options and your puts and your calls, etc. You know, on positions, on commodities, on asset classes,
Right.
on investment classes worldwide. What is hedging? Hedging is basically a way to ensure that you are mitigating your risk from either losing too much or basically ensuring that you're taking profit. And that is exactly what it is. And a lot of people actually find hedging, or feel that hedging is like a bit of like insurance. It isn't. I mean, it is similar in concept, but it isn't, because, you know, insurance is a finite product. Like, you know exactly that you are going to get this if this happens. Hedging, there are ways around it which things can go all right. And that's where I think it's so important to make sure that, especially when it comes to any kind of trading, any kind of business in any way, where there is risk involved, and everything has risk. Even walking out of your house in the morning has got risk, you know? The way you hedge yourself against that risk is to make sure that you look both ways before you cross the street. Simple as that. That's your hedge, right? So real world scenarios. And the main thing that a lot of people forget, especially in business, and I'm not just talking about trading or commodities, etc., blah, blah, blah. I'm talking about in business. People need to make sure that the best way to hedge against any kind of risk is to let go of emotion. Simple as that. The moment that you get emotion to come into the picture, that's it. You're done. You can't be a trader. And that happens in a lot of different scenarios. Like a lot of entrepreneurs, they don't quite do a proper business plan to understand what are the risks of entry into a particular market, right? So if you don't understand the risk that is there, how can you even formulate a hedge should something go wrong? So it's extremely important to make sure that you do your groundwork, your planning moving forward. And that's the only way you can actually, you know, hedge against risk, in my opinion, because you have to obviously ensure that you keep emotion out. That's absolutely, you know, important. And, you know, hedging is basically just it's a management strategy, especially when it comes to business, to mitigate against or offset losses of investments in one way or the other. Simple as that.
Wow. Joseph, can you teach people to take the emotion out of it? Because I feel that's the hardest part of all of that, right? It is the emotion, because people get so attached and they're, you know, the fear sets in. Is that something that you're able to teach? And do you help people with that? Or is this specifically for yourself?
No, I mean, it's something which can be, in my opinion, evolved. I think you can teach someone to do that, but you can't, in my opinion, you can't sort of teach yourself specifically. I mean, you can practice upon it, and that's what I'm trying to get at is like, I've always had really good mentors and coaches, like from a personal perspective, really good friends, like, you know, who are like my blood brothers, so to speak, you know, who basically like held me back, or basically given me a kick up the backside when I needed to as well. I've had really good managers and leaders who I've worked with who've acted as mentors for me. I think, the best way to control emotion is sometimes, the reason why, emotions are sometimes completely outside our control. And that's where it's important, it's imperative that you have someone who's actually going to keep you accountable.
Yeah.
And that is one of the main reasons as to why I'm a firm believer and an advocate that you need to have a mentor or a coach. Now, a mentor or a coach, a lot of people feel that, I don't want to make that investment in that, etc., blah, blah, blah. But people don't realize the only way that you can actually make money or, increase your wealth is by investing wisely. Now, it depends what you invest in. You can invest money, you can invest time, you can invest your social capital, you can invest your goodwill. A lot of things, right? But the word invest is absolutely essential. And that's why I feel investing in a coach or a mentor is essential. Now, a coach or a mentor need not be someone who has got all the accreditations or certifications, etc. It can be your best friend. It can be someone who you're really connected with. And that's what a lot of people don't realize.
I love that.
They feel like a coach or a mentor needs to come with labels attached to them, right? I'm a firm believer of tearing up labels. And that starts from everyday life, not just, other people around you or other races or religions or whatever. We've had
100%.
so many things happening in the world at this present moment. But it's so important, especially, that people tear up the labels of when they actually feel of what they require to move forward, to invest in their own self-development and their own personal development. So yes, you can control your emotions, but that needs intentional thinking and intentional investment in yourself moving forward. It's absolutely essential.
Man, I really love what you're saying there, especially the accountability part. On the business side of what we do, we teach different courses. And one of the courses we teach is how to help people write their first book. And it's an amazing process because, many people want to write a book.
Correct.
But I think where we add the most value is holding people accountable. Knowing that we have weekly Zoom calls just like this with a group of people that they know on a Sunday afternoon they have to get on their call and talk about their progress for the week. There's something to that where, whether it's that or whether it's what you do, the coaching part, when you're accountable to someone, and we all need it. It doesn't matter where we are on the ladder, right? It's just a great thing to be accountable, even to our own family, accountable, to our responsibilities in life. So I'm so glad you touched on accountability because it is a very important component to everything we do.
Checks and balances, mate. Checks and balances are essential. Anything in, if you overdo anything in life, it's bad. Simple as that. You have to keep, checks and balances with whatever you do. And the only way to do that is to hold yourself accountable or have someone who holds you accountable.
Yes.
So yeah, spot on.
So let's dive into negotiation. I know that's another
favorite topic. Love it.
So walk us through that. Do you have any stories? How do you want to introduce negotiation to us? Because it's such a broad term. But I could already see how it probably plays into a lot of what you do.
Yeah, I think negotiation. I think the foundation of negotiation is in two things, and that's basically your ears and your mouth. Simple as that. And they need to be used in the ratio that God has given them to us in. You need to listen more and talk less. That's negotiation 101, in my opinion. That's the only way you can negotiate. Why do I say this? Negotiation is obviously, lots of other steps. You've got 5-step processes, 7-step, 10-step, 15-step processes and negotiations that gurus and pundits and experts and specialists have written books on. But in my opinion, the only thing about negotiation is you've got to be present in the moment. You've got to listen to what the other person's saying. You've got to know what you want, and you need to, very, very important, be able to hold on to what you actually want out of the deal. You can never go into a negotiation, keeping in mind that you're going to be able to discount what you really want. And, negotiation, in my opinion, is also got to do with how you look at life as well, right? there are so many people who actually hold themselves back based out of fear of judgment, fear of failure, etc. And they don't do what is required because they feel that they're going to fail. If you go in with a similar mindset, especially if you're going, into a negotiation, you're doomed from word go. Simple as that. I mean, so it's important. Like the first step of negotiation, obviously, you have to plan. You need to know what you're doing. You need to prepare. You need to know the topic. You need to know what you want out of that deal, etc. You need to. The other part, which is essential, which a lot of people actually they don't do more of, is you need to research. You need to plan out, especially with regards to the person who you're going to be sitting across from. You need to know, or you need to try and figure out the cards that they are holding close to their chest. Now, I'm using a lot of card analogies, and I'm not a gambler, okay? I'm a poker player. I used to play a lot of poker. I've not played poker in like years now. But the thing which I love about poker is like, if you take little aspects of poker, you can actually really put that across into strategies in business. And I find it very, very interesting. Like the biggest negotiation at the poker table, which I have seen, is basically someone playing a bluff and, someone trying to call their bluff, and they are literally not courageous enough to actually call it, but they know it's a bluff. But, that's how you become a good negotiator. Again, emotions need to be kept under check. And another aspect in negotiation, which in my opinion, I've seen so many senior leaders actually fail. And it's something which my first mentor in Australia, who was my immediate boss at Telstra. My first proper job was actually in telecommunications in Telstra, which is the government-owned arm for telecommunications, phone service provider, a bit like I think AT&T in the US. So my first mentor, he was my immediate boss. And I remember he told me that, the one thing that I want you to do is like when you actually put your cards on the table. Now, he said it like that, but, I understand exactly what he means. So when you've actually told someone what you want, tell them and just zip it. The power of silence is so important in negotiation. Because sometimes, and I've seen so many people, and I've done a lot of sales trainings, across multiple industries. And the first thing that I tell people who I train is like, don't be afraid of silence. The person who actually breaks the silence first is the one who loses. Simple as that. I mean, there have been situations where I've actually sat across the table and I've basically told what I want. I basically made the offer. I basically said, this is what it is, this is what I want. And I've just sat there and I've just looked at them and they've looked at me for like 2 minutes.
Wow.
It's awkward. It can be awkward, man. It can be really awkward when you're actually negotiating like billion-dollar projects, government contracts, etc. It can be really awkward. But the thing is, you just tell them, this is what I have. This is what it takes.
And the
ball's in your court.
I love that. The discipline, right, of that is so crucial to a negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to a lot of these things that you told us earlier. Like I could remember you leaving the wallet in the car, right? That's a discipline. And you have to follow that. And you put the stopwatch on and you have to follow that. When you say what you're going to do, you be silent. And then you kind of honor that, right?
Yep. Spot on. And the other part of negotiation, mate, which I think a lot of people fear a bit, especially if you're in sales, you always want to get that deal across the line, right? Everyone wants to get the deal across. No one likes to fail in a negotiation and walk away, not having gotten this, the sign on the dotted line. But you need to be courageous enough to walk away. If you know that what you have on the table is valuable, you need to be able to walk away. And see, this is another element from life, which is very, very important. Like, we see so many motivational speakers, etc., who talk about it's so important to sometimes just let go and let God, right?
Yes.
And just walk away from situations because, if something's meant to be, it will happen. But if you chase something continuously, they will just keep going away. It's like, the butterfly analogy, right? You're in a garden, there are butterflies flying around, you try to chase them, you're going to flutter away. The moment you actually stand still and you just put your arm out, they're going to come and sit on your finger. So so that's the thing. You need to walk away. You need to basically, first element, emotionless. In negotiation, if you go in with emotions, you're doomed. Simple as that. You need to go in with a straight face. You need to know what you want, and that is essential. You need to know what you want, because if you don't know what you want, then there's no point in going into the negotiation table at all.
So when you're going into a negotiation, Joseph, how important is your mindset to be ready, to be prepared? I know you talked about preparation, but can you give us some tips on what you do mentally to prepare for, especially, I guess it doesn't matter the size because it's irrelevant. Just any negotiation is important. Yeah. What do you do mentally to prepare?
Okay, so there is this TED Talk, which a lot of people may know of, Amy Cuddy, which is basically on different body language tips and tricks, right? Whenever I go into any kind of a negotiation, I do like a Superman pose, like this, for 2 minutes, just standing like wide and strong. It raises your hormones. It raises your cortisol levels. It raises a lot of different things. It gets you into a zone. It's difficult. It's something obviously which takes time. It takes preparation. It takes practice. It takes experience. I've always been on camera for a long time. I've been on stage, etc. But every single moment before I actually get the camera is rolling, or before I actually step on stage, I'm nervous. But the moment I see the red light on my camera, I'm in the zone. And that is what you need to basically just snap into it, right? And it's not something that comes immediately. A lot of people feel that they can be great negotiators just because they are good communicators. No, you can't be a great negotiator if you're just a good communicator. You need to you need to be a good reader of the person in front of you. You need to have very high emotional intelligence. That's very, very important. You need to be able to read the person. I'm not telling you to go out and do body language courses or anything along those lines, but if you aren't able to read the emotions of the person, that they are, the way they're talking, the way they're moving their hand, the gestures that they're making, etc., you can never be a good negotiator. So, a couple of things which I do, especially before I go into any negotiations, I do power posing by Amy Cuddy. Anyone who's watching, please just type on Google, Amy Cuddy, AMYCUDDY power pose. Watch that 18-minute long video on her TED Talk on YouTube. I'm telling you, that may be the most important video that you watch if you're a leader. Simple as that. If you are doing negotiations, if you are doing strategic takeovers, digital transformation, whichever field you're in, if you are communicating with stakeholders, if you're communicating with your customers, it's essential, because your body language gives off a lot of soft cues which you may not even be aware of, and which may play a significant role in any negotiation that you do.
Wow, thanks for that.
Any discussion that you have,
Yeah, we'll put that in the show notes for sure for people to click on it. Excellent.
Yeah, it's great.
Take us into a negotiation. So say you and I are negotiating something, and what are some of the things you might be looking for, body language on my side, that may kind of tip you off one way or the other? Are you looking at eye contact? Are you looking at hesitation? Everything? Absolutely.
I would look at a few things. Like I'm going to now see what I'm doing now, obviously, because I'm maintaining eye contact with the audience who's actually watching me on screen. So I'm actually not looking at you on my laptop screen. I'm actually looking at my camera on the laptop, right? I'm taking a couple of glances here and there just to see you sometimes and see myself, to make sure that I'm centered in front of the camera. But I am making sure that I'm putting my eye contact. So let's say, for example, for this exercise, I'm actually going to look at you, right, rather than at the laptop screen.
Okay.
And it's the first thing is eye contact. You have to try and read the person, like the way you are sitting at this present moment with your hand right in front of you, like this. that shows that you are confident in what you do, but you're a bit unsure as to how to put across your feelings, or put across what you're wanting to bring across to the table, right? You are sitting at this present moment, and this is something which, you know, I've had a couple of my really close mentors actually teach me over time. You are sitting in a relaxed position, but it feels that you've got a lot of things in your mind, and you're continuously changing your body posture. So that shows to me immediately that you are not very confident in whatever you're going to say next in our negotiation table at this present moment.
Got it.
But so these are very, very important. Another aspect, and everyone talks about it, Roger, is that you have to mirror the person who you're speaking to, and that's absolutely essential. So the person who actually mirrors, in my opinion, is the person who actually fails.
Ooh.
Especially in a negotiation. Now, I'm not talking about in a sales closing. There's a big difference between a sales closing and a negotiation. What I'm talking about sales closing is like when you're actually talking to people, right? With regards to the products and services, the solutions that you provide and the services that you provide, you're basically wanting to get into their comfort zone, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Okay. You need them to buy into you. You need to get them to know, like, and trust you. That's where you need to obviously mirror them. However, in a negotiation table, in my opinion, it is completely different, because the moment you're mirroring someone, you're actually following them. Now, if you want to come out as the winning negotiator in any aspect, you need to have more of an alpha presence, if that makes sense. Now that means a lot of things. You need to ensure that the alpha presence comes from a lot of different attributes. Number one is obviously you need to make sure, and again, this is something which a lot of people forget, is like they don't do enough research on the person that they're negotiating with. Never ever go into a negotiation if you don't know who you're talking to, right? I mean, obviously, I'm not talking about like little contracts like your phone bill, where you're talking to someone.
Right.
I'm talking about like proper contracts. Like you need to know who you're going to be sitting across the table from, because if you want to actually, I mean, if it's something which is straightforward, that's different. But if you know for a fact that there are going to be certain roadblocks which have come up in previous communications, and that's the reason why you're going to actually sit across someone at the table to negotiate certain terms and conditions. You need to ensure that you know who you're speaking with. You need to know what position that they have in the company. You need to very, very well know the decision-making power that they have. That is essential. When you're going into a negotiation, you know what decisions you can make, whether you are the CEO of your firm or whether you are actually, someone who's negotiating on behalf of the CEO. You will have some pre-ascribed guidelines to which you can negotiate to, right? So I'm talking about like contractual margins, etc. So you need to know that the person who you're speaking to, what kind of, they have
authority as far as signing authority or decision making is able to be made.
Exactly.
Great points.
Exactly.
Great points. Wow. Yeah. Now, do you coach people in this regard? Do you coach people to negotiate?
I have in my, when I was in Australia, I have coached some of my senior team leaders in sales teams to be able to be better negotiators. Watch out for little cues, tips, and tricks. Basically, and in my opinion, the first thing in negotiation is maintaining eye contact. It's absolutely essential. That is another alpha element, which is eye contact. The person who looks away loses. Simple as that. We've learned from our kindergarten days. When you had two kids looking into each other's eyes just to see who would look away first, and that's the same thing. That's another alpha concept. These are little tips and little things which a lot of people actually forget. And it's something which, it takes practice. It's not something that, you can just send someone in like completely cold, do a negotiation on a very important aspect if they've never actually, been there, done that in any way. Can you be taught to become a great negotiator? Absolutely. Absolutely. Each and every person, can be taught to become a great negotiator as long as they have good perceptive skills, as long as they are perceptive of the person in front of them, as long as they are good listeners, as long as they can communicate effectively. And it's absolutely essential that a person has a high emotional intelligence. Essential.
So Joseph, earlier you talked about knowing when to walk away.
Yep.
How do you know? Where is that point? And is it different for every negotiation? Or can you give us an example of maybe when would be the right time to walk away? Because you don't want to do it prematurely either.
Spot on. And that's where I think, it's important. Sometimes you said it, each and every negotiation is different. You have to know, obviously, how much you're willing to give to get, if that makes sense. And that is, when you've reached a bit of an impasse, for example, a great time to walk away is when you are telling the person you are negotiating with, and you know that what you're asking them to do is above their decision-making level. So the best time to walk away from a negotiation, you tell them, okay, Roger, these are my terms and conditions, etc., blah, blah, blah. I want you to think of it, and I want you to get back to me. Thank you very much. I'm out. That's it. And that is again an alpha situation that you brought up there, because you are the one who's actually setting the rules, and that is important in a negotiation. And it depends from product, different industries as well as to how you negotiate as well. But it's and that's where it's important to make sure that you know what you're talking about, you know exactly what you want, you know exactly how much you're willing to give, and you know exactly what you want to get. And it's essential to know, obviously, the background of the person who you're negotiating with.
So if you're in the middle of a negotiation and the person is using a higher up as leverage, to either get out of something or buy some
happens
time.
all the time.
Right. So, and I know I've been there. How do you navigate around that?
Same thing. Take the offer off the table. Simple as that. Everyone has got a fear of loss. The fear of missing out, right? FOMO, FOMO.
Right.
Don't hesitate to take the offer off the table. Just say, that's it. I'm taking the offer off the table. If you aren't able to make a decision, and we've been talking about this for like a few weeks now or a few months or whatever it is, some negotiations take years, but have that courage to actually look them straight in the eye and say, this is my offer. And, you've been beating around the bush for a little while. I'm taking it off the table at close of business today. Simple as that. So take the offer off the table. If someone is using excuses when you know that they don't need a higher up to authorize them to make a decision regarding certain aspects, you know that it is within their decision making or pay grade, for that matter, to make that decision, take the offer off the table. See how it changes.
And as you say, call their bluff.
Call their bluff. Poker parlance, mate.
That's great. Joseph, let's talk about brand marketing, something you really love, and I know you're doing such an amazing job on LinkedIn. I would love to spend a little bit of time talking about LinkedIn.
Please.
How did you grow your network so vast? And talk about the branding portion of that, please.
Okay, so just from a LinkedIn perspective, my journey on LinkedIn has actually not even been 2 years yet, just so you know. I actually started becoming active on LinkedIn on the 5th of August, 2018. And the reason I actually even started getting active on LinkedIn is because I was actually at a bit of a career crossroads at that time. And I was wanting to look into my next career opportunity. And a few of my friends out here in Singapore were like, are you on LinkedIn? And I was like, no. What is that? I mean, I've heard of it, And they're like, no, it's a great place. It's a professional networking site where you can actually meet with, you can interact with recruiters and hiring managers, etc. There are jobs that they post and stuff. I was like, okay. So it's like it's another job posting site. So that was my initial reaction towards LinkedIn. So I come into LinkedIn, and I start following a few people and, reaching out to recruiters, looking at a couple of jobs, etc., blah, blah, blah. And then I came to realize this is not a job posting site. This is actually a networking site. It is social networking, simple as that. And I think, it took me a couple of months to actually realize that. And, right in the beginning, I was reaching out to recruiters and, just sending them my resume, just cold, sending them my resume saying that I saw this job, thank you so much, blah, blah, blah. Please have a look at my resume. How many replies did I get? Zero. Zero, mate. And, that's the mistakes that a lot of people make. They see LinkedIn as basically a place where they can dump their CV. And somehow magically, they will be transformed into their next, job opportunity. It doesn't work like that. The only way you can actually get LinkedIn to work is by basically putting in your personality into whatever you're talking about, or however you're actually bringing value to others around you. And I think the only way I actually feel, in my opinion, that I've been able to grow my network is because I've just been really genuine and authentic. And I know these are buzzwords which a lot of people use, but what you see is what you get. And I'm a big believer, and I'm a big advocate of basically making sure that your online persona is equal to your offline personality. Simple as that. If it's not that, there's no integrity about you. I mean, if someone asks me to define myself in one word, I would say integrity. A lot of my friends on LinkedIn, if you ask them, how do you define Joseph in one word, they will say integrity. Because whatever I do, the way I say, the way I speak, the way I interact, that is something which I wear on my sleeves, quite literally, is integrity. And that's what people resonate with. If you're the same in person as they see on screen, that's what people resonate with. They want to have that human connection. They want to make sure, they want to understand that they know you as a person. And I think that's one of the main reasons as to why I've been blessed quite literally to actually having met a number of really amazing people on LinkedIn who have guided me in my starting phase. A few people, and this is obviously going to go on LinkedIn with the link on there as well to watch the full episode. So I'm going to give a shout out to 3 people actually, who actually made me do my first video. I never wanted to actually come on camera. I mean, I'm not camera shy or anything along those lines, but things I never wanted to actually do, come on screen and do a video sharing. And Corey Warfield from Chicago. He's a brother. Melvin Tan from Singapore, okay. And Aaron Nason from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. These are 3 people who literally used to WhatsApp me every single day saying, Joseph, when's your first video coming out? That's it.
And was that happening independently? Did they know each other, or were they doing that on their own?
No, on their own, from 3 different angles. And I was like, all right. So and then suddenly it was another very interesting aspect which actually pushed me. Obviously, they were encouraging and pushing me as well. But there was one day when I did one post, and one of my connections on LinkedIn sent me a DM message saying that someone had plagiarized that post and put that up. Right? It was a written post. And when they plagiarized that post and put it up, I mean, they even used my hashtag, which is rise and raise. I'm like, come on, like, really, come on. I mean, but it was really funny. And I was like, all right, that's it. I'm going to start doing videos, right? You have to be really good at CGI monitoring and stuff, to put your face and my face, right? And change my voice, etc. So that's
a great story.
My video journey.
That's a great story.
Yeah,
Wow.
That's how I started my video journey, mate. So but I mean, LinkedIn. I think the reason as to why I've been able to build so many relationships is because, number one, I'm not scared to be myself. Now, a lot of people mistake not being scared to be yourself to vulnerability, there's a huge difference. Like you can sometimes, a lot of people, what I see on social media, not just on LinkedIn, on every social media, is like they're always playing for the pity vote, right? And that is not vulnerability. That's, you are trying to take advantage of the inherent goodness that people have within them. And that is in my opinion, that's not persuasion, that's manipulation. And that's something which I absolutely hate. So, I mean, it's important. I have always been myself, and I think that's what people see in whatever I do. I do a lot of videos, as you know. I mean, I'm a LinkedIn Live broadcaster as well. So I think people have seen me over the last almost 2 years, and they have seen that, no, Joseph is actually like this. And people who've met me, like whenever they come to Singapore, people reach out to me and they're like, hey, do you want to catch up and stuff? Yeah, I was like, yeah, of course. I mean, I think another really good element is like, you know, you just have to be out there. You've got to be in front of people. You've got to be in people's minds. And I think another aspect, especially in the last, so to give you an example, Roger, I mean, on the 1st of Jan, 2020 or 2020, 1st of January, the total number of followers that I had was 29,800 or so. It was just under 30,000 followers, just under. So from the 1st of January to today, I'm sitting at about 130,000 followers approximately. A couple of things which I changed in my strategy, which I don't know, maybe that helped, you know, attracting more people, algorithm wise, I don't know. I started posting daily. Yes. And I started posting multiple times. So 2 times a day I started posting. I've gone back to just 1 time a day now. But what I'm trying to say is like, there is no right or wrong time, if that makes sense. There is no right or wrong amount of posts that you can do. But what I started focusing on, especially this year, is I completely flipped around the 80-20 rule, or the Pareto Principle. A lot of people say, and you've got so many LinkedIn police, you know, out there saying that, oh, this content is for Facebook, or this content is for Instagram. I'm like, what are you talking about, right? If someone puts a video of a dog or a cat, you know, being treated at a vet for whatever reason, how is that content for Facebook? You know, LinkedIn is a professional networking site. A veterinarian is a professional, you know, who does his job. So if, you know, these are just little labels, little, you know, perspectives that we really need to get rid of, you know, and that is important. So what I started doing, now I'm not saying that, you know, you should only, you know, reformat videos from YouTube and put that on LinkedIn. No, don't do that. But the thing is, what I started doing is like, I literally like beat myself up, quite literally, you know, metaphorically, and was like, you have to be yourself. You've got to let people know who you are. Like, people resonate with, people want to do business with you. People like you. People want to know you more if they actually see you for the real you. And that is something very, very important and very powerful. A lot of people actually say that on LinkedIn, that, you know, you should post 80% of the time, you know, things that you actually do professionally, and about 20% of the time other stuff. I say do the opposite.
No kidding.
You should post 80% of the time of things like which you are passionate about. You know, your musings, you know, what you think, you know, little things that you've seen, and you've done a bit of a, you know, a connect back to what you do. Like you may have seen, and most of the people who may be watching this episode may see that, now, I do a couple of quotes, you know, from sometimes, you know, picture quotes sometimes, and a couple of videos here and there, and stuff. But I always sort of tap it back into something to do with leadership, management, yes, negotiation, strategy. And, you know, that's what people understand, right? And that they can see that. And I'm not scared to share my musings. You know, if it's something which I wanted to talk about one day, like I shared something about salt and rice the other day. Yes. It was a very interesting WhatsApp forward which I got, which is really, really important. Like, you know, when you're cooking rice, you don't put the same amount of salt when you're cooking rice. A little amount of salt makes a huge difference. So, that's the thing, that what you're focusing on sometimes can be the wrong thing. The light in a room, it's, if you see the ratio, the proportion of the size of that light bulb and the size of the room, it's enormous. It's 5,000, 10,000 is to 1, if not even more. It's not about the size, but it's about, what you have within you. A little light bulb can actually basically light up an entire room, right? And the moment you flick the switch and it goes off, the room's plunged into darkness. So it's not about, and what I'm going to say here is like, don't just post on LinkedIn because you have to post, right? Just because you feel as if you have to post once a day or twice a day or whatever, or 100 times a day, I don't care. But don't just post because you have to post. It doesn't matter whether 1,000 people come and react to your stuff, or only 20 people come and react to your stuff, right? Some of these things are completely outside your control, completely. I mean, the algorithm changes every single day. Sometimes when you tag yourself in the post, it works better. Sometimes you do the same thing the next week, it doesn't go anywhere. So, you just have to keep doing one thing, which is being yourself and just trying to provide value. If you keep trying to provide value, the right people are going to be attracted towards you because they will actually see that you are being consistent. And the other thing which I think is absolutely imperative if you want to be successful on LinkedIn, or rather stand out from other people, is engage. If you don't engage with others, if you feel that you can just do a post and just do a helicopter drop off and just expect people to come and crawl over all of your posts without you ever having engaged with any of theirs, it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
The law of reciprocity is absolutely important, and it's essential. And that's something which I think LinkedIn is one of the most organic platforms out there at this present moment. I mean, I heard from people that people can buy followers as well nowadays on LinkedIn, which is ridiculous. I mean, why would anyone want to do that? Yeah. I mean, okay, Roger, I mean, Vanity. I've had people actually ask me, did you buy followers? And I was like, I didn't even know you could buy followers. And then I actually went on Google to search for it. And I saw that there are companies out there which actually sell you followers. I'm like, terrible. Why would you do that? Yeah. It's terrible. It
defeats the purpose of it anyway.
Defeats the purpose. Yeah. But, with social media, you know how it is. People focus on vanity metrics.
Yes.
Don't focus on vanity metrics. Don't try to be someone you're not. Be yourself. Just be yourself. And provide value in whatever you do, and the right people are going to get resonated towards you.
And Joseph, your story is so relevant right now because you received 100,000 followers in about 6 months, a little over 6 months. That's incredible, and it's all organic, and it's because of what you said. Yeah. And by the way, you're not the first person I've talked to that had this huge trajectory based on being genuine. So I'm glad that is being reinforced here. If you, Ken, one last question on this topic.
Please.
You said earlier in the conversation, you spend quite a bit of time every single day commenting on posts and having that interaction. Yes. About how much time, just so we have an idea?
Oh, goodness. You're opening up a can of worms here, brother. I mean,
but it's just good for frame of reference.
Yeah, no, of course. The way I sometimes deal with LinkedIn is not how you'd like to do it, because it's something which I don't know. It's happened over a period of time. I can function at work on a normal 10-hour or 9-hour work day with like 3 hours of sleep. Not many people can do that. So what I normally do, I spend anywhere between 5 to 7 hours a day on LinkedIn, and I've been doing it every single day since the 5th of August 2018. Every single day, in some way or the other. Replying back to comments on my post, going through my feed, engaging with other people's posts, just having DM conversations with people from around the world. In my 5 to 7 hours, I'm actually including time like this, where we are having a chat, Roger, right? Yes. Because you're a connection of mine, you're a friend of mine from LinkedIn. So I consider this as LinkedIn time as well, because I'm having a conversation with a friend from the other side of the planet. This is what networking is all about, and it's been made possible because we were connected via LinkedIn. So you have to invest time, you have to invest effort, you have to invest genuineness, and you have to invest the essence of actually wanting to make a difference in some way. I try and summarize it in an acronym called CARE, C-A-R-E, which the C stands for connect meaningfully, not superficially. The A stands for appreciate feedback at every given moment. The R stands for relate to others and their real needs and requirements, and that plays out beautifully in both a professional as well as a personal setting. The E stands for engage, and engage with the intention of providing value. So don't just comment on people's posts with just one word, like saying nice post or like a clapping sign or whatever. You don't need to make a paragraph comment as well. I can't do that anymore. I mean, I get tagged hundreds of times a day nowadays. But I can't go and comment on each and every post. But when I do make a comment, I make at least a line or a 2-line comment, and makes a bit of an effort. And that's what people understand, and that's what people remember. They remember that effort. And the beauty of this platform is the people from around the world. They're really, really nice. They're amazing people. They're people inherently are good. People want to make a difference. People want to be good with others. It's just like situations, society, which basically bring out the demons, in my opinion.
Joseph, I'm so glad we connected. I'm so glad to have this conversation, and I'm honored, really, to be doing this with you today and to be sharing a piece of your story. A few last questions before I let you go, if you don't mind.
Please.
If you were to take out your cell phone right now and call the 20-year-old Joseph, is there any advice you'd give him?
Just one piece of advice, mate. Do not put other people on a pedestal. Simple as that.
Wow.
Don't put other people. I have made that mistake in my life, and that's something which I regret. A lot of people say, motivational speakers, specialists, coaches say that you should never regret. I actually say that you should regret, because, failures are what you learn from. And if you don't acknowledge them, you will never be able to understand its real teaching. So 20-year-old Joseph, I would say, do not put other people on a pedestal. You are leading your life, not someone else's. So you make sure that the person inside your head is you, not someone else.
Love that. And last question before I let you go. Well, first, if people want to connect with you, is the best place LinkedIn?
LinkedIn's the best place. I do have Instagram and Facebook and stuff, but I hardly go on there. The last time I actually went on Facebook was on my birthday last month. So that was in May. Instagram, no, hardly. I'm on LinkedIn. My details are on LinkedIn. I have an open profile. So if you do want to connect with me, don't send me just a hi, that's it, or a hello. If you do want to connect, you want to talk about something, if you want my ideas, my inputs in regarding anything to do with sales, business development, marketing, strategy, negotiations, risk management, etc. I worked in lots of different industries across multiple geographies. So just let's have a conversation. Absolutely. I love conversations. I speak too much sometimes. But, I listen intently, and I truly want to make a difference to others around me. And if there's some way that I can actually, provide my valuable insights in some way to better the situation of someone, or answer any questions, burning questions that they may have in either a professional or personal circumstance, absolutely. Let's connect.
Great. Do you have anything coming up that you'd like to share with us? Any events or online programs?
Well, I'm not sure when you're going to be airing this, but I'm going to invite you to this. So the Create the Edge, which I do with my co-host and co-presenter and co-founder Joy Abdullah from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. So our season finale is on Monday, the 6th of July. So in the evening, or rather morning, your time, 9:30 a.m. I'm not sure whether this is going to be aired by then, but something which is coming up, I would say, is hold on to your horses. Hold on to your horses. I've got a couple of things on the cards. in all probability, I will be back in Australia by the end of the year. And it's something which is really exciting, which I'm ideally, in my opinion, if everything works out, if all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, it's going to be something very exciting, which is going to provide a lot of value to a lot of people. So hold on to your horses. I'm just, I am who I am. The human CRM, as people try to, as they call me. I connect people from all around the world because that's what I do. I love relationships.
Fantastic. And Joseph, last question. At the end of the day, you still have a lot of work to do, a lot of life to live, but what type of mark are you trying to leave here on this earth? And what do you want your legacy to be?
My legacy, that's a great question, mate. That is such a great question. I mean, sometimes I feel that I don't yet know what I would like to leave behind, if that makes sense. But a couple of things which I would ideally like to champion causes. I'm very, very passionate about a few things. Number one is I'm very, very passionate about animal rights. I'm a huge animal lover. Lifetime member of the Worldwide Fund for Nature and the RSPCA. So that's number one is animal rights. Number two is ideally I want to make sure, and I would love if that is ever possible, that no one on this planet should go without clean drinking water, 2 square meals a day, and a roof over their head. It's important. And the last thing, in my opinion, is like I feel, and I think this is what governments really need to do quite a lot. Just allocate 5%, not even 1% of your defense budget, for crying out loud, every year on education. That's it. Just try and get it more affordable to people, your citizens. I mean, education is so important, so important. Yes, life is the best educator, etc., blah, blah, blah. But nothing beats a proper education in school.
Well said. Joseph, you are an inspiration. Welcome to the American Real family. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to seeing lots more from you in the future.
Thank you so much. It really was a pleasure speaking with you, Roger, and thank you for the time. Thank you for inviting me on American Real. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thanks for tuning into American Real. Be sure to visit our website, americanreal.tv, or search for us on iTunes or YouTube for past episodes. While you're there, please rate us or leave us a review, as that helps others find our show. I am truly grateful and appreciate all of your support. If you'd like to be part of our inner circle or want one-on-one coaching, check out the American Real Learning Academy, where we have self-help groups and courses so you can build the best you. We also have a new Facebook group where you can connect with high achievers from around the world. If you want to go even further, maybe you're determined to write your own book or launch your own podcast, contact me today to see if we can help. You can reach me through Instagram or Facebook, or email me directly at roger@americanreal.tv. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.